Welcome to Soul Nutrition, where we discuss the various ways of nourishing our souls. Today's guest is Lucy Liu. Lucy is a certified life coach helping women in life transitions get unstuck, beat overwhelm, see clarity, and reach new goals to live happier and more fulfilling lives and thrive. She is an unshakable optimist, wife, mother, easygoing entrepreneur, women empowerment workshop facilitator, motivational speaker, and now she makes it her passion to help other women rewrite their life story. She also inspires as a host of her weekly podcast, The Lucy Liu Show, and has been featured in Medium, Voyage LA, Elephant Journal, and Thrive Global. Wow, Lucy, what a resume. It's such an honor to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Reina. It's absolutely an honor to be here. And to all the beautiful souls tuning in, thank you.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I was introduced to Lucy Liu by a mutual friend, and we just had the most incredible soul nourishing conversation. And I thought, what a timely time to have her on here, because we really talked about spirituality and culture and how the two have merged in her life. And I just thought, your faith is such a beautiful story that I really want to share with the audience. And so now we have her here today to share with us, her beautiful optimism, her incredible faith that looks different than some of our viewers. And I think it's so great to share our differences and to really celebrate each other. And so I really want to celebrate you today, Lucy. And do you like Lucy Liu all the time, or do you like Lucy and Liu?
Yeah, that's a whole nother story about my name.
Well, we might get into it in this hour. I changed my name, so I love talking about names. I think it's really fun.
Oh, yeah, we can talk about that later. But yes, thank you, Reina, for that. As you talked about, we had a wonderful conversation last week and we just really vibed together. But it was important that I am all about positivity and I speak on all subjects relating to personal development. And I hope to inspire hope, confidence, and joy into each person that I come cross path with. And two topics that I've actually never ever opened up in my whole life, as I told Reina, is politics and religion. I just felt like it had nothing to do with my expertise, and I'm definitely not good at talking about it. But Reina pointed out that it's a beautiful learning opportunity for us all, and I'm opening up to talk about my spirituality today, holding the highest intention of good for all, that we're all here elevating this world and making a contribution to a more positive world.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very special experience for me as well, being here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if
You
to
saw
start
it, here first.
yeah,
Lucy was
yes.
talking about spirituality and religion. And yeah, we had the most beautiful conversation. I'd love to hop back into kind of your family history and the background of, how you were raised and how, the beauty of all of how you were raised, and where maybe it wasn't set up to be quite as inclusive as some of us think so in Christianity. And it's honestly, you really opened my eyes, as a Anglican white female who's grown up in church. I always thought of, the Bible's translated into all these different languages. But one thing I never thought of is, why isn't the art ever in different cultures, right? We see all this Western European white faces on God, on angels. Jesus, we can all agree was, from Israel. But the rest of the heavenly beings, if God made diversity all throughout the earth, wouldn't it make sense to see diversity through the angels and God, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, that probably if God made all that diversity, that would be in heaven too.
So yeah, we have to push back in time a little bit and start with my story.
Yes.
So my parents immigrated to America when I was about in fifth grade. They are
Wow.
not religious in any way, and pretty much that's how I grew up when I was very young. So in China, it's really illegal to practice any religion. So
Wow.
Christianity was actually unheard of as I grew up in China. And even until this day, it's still illegal to worship, or although nowadays there are a lot of underground churches and worship group gatherings. For one, I know my grandma eventually turned to a Christian, and one of my uncles was arrested for passing out the Bible in Chinese,
Wow.
obviously.
Yeah.
So it's very different. And when I grew up, when I was very young, I knew nothing about Christianity. And as I immigrated to America, all my friends went to church. So they actually, a couple of my friends took me to church, and I just fell in love with the environment. I mean, I love worship.
Yeah.
And we had, so I actually grew up in a evangelical church in Los Angeles,
Uh-huh.
and it was one of the biggest Chinese churches in my area. So I am
Wow.
in Los Angeles, and we actually started in a very small room. And every couple years, we actually moved. And eventually, in the end, it turned into a really large church that can seat over thousands of members. And we held Bible studies every Friday night and worship Friday night and actually sermon on Sunday. And all those were in three languages. So it was in
Wow.
English, Chinese, and Taiwanese because it was a Taiwanese church. So I was actually in the Chinese fellowship. And because I spoke fluent English later on, so I was kind of like, I like both of these fellowships. I was all over the place. But
I've done
yeah,
that in English and
yeah,
Spanish.
yes. So it was really fun, and it was part of my life and
Mm,
I would say my teen years, and that's how
yeah.
I grew up. So yes, definitely that's my faith, my background. And as I would say as I started into college, I learned about Buddhism in school. I took like a Buddhist class,
Uh-huh.
and I absolutely fell in love with the Buddhist philosophy. And I don't see Buddhism as a religion. I
Right.
see Buddhist as a philosophy, a way of thinking, and really a lifestyle. And
Yes.
by learning these philosophies of Buddhism, it absolutely shaped me to be the unshakable optimist I am today. So I cannot, I cannot be who I am today without Christianity, and I cannot be who I am without these Buddhist philosophies. And really now I don't see a conflict in that. I did stop going to church, and I don't go to any Buddhist practices or gatherings, but it
Mhm.
is part of my life.
Yes. And I love that because, I know a large community of believers who consider themselves Christian Buddhists. And,
Mhm.
I don't think it's a whole lot different than saying I'm a Christian Stoic, right? That's a form of philosophy as well, right? Where you have a Stoic philosophy, where a Buddhism is more of a optimistic and very centered philosophy. And so the community that I know and I love to participate in is what a lot of the people there call themselves Christian Buddhists because, like David in the Bible, we meditate on the word day and night. We get together and, our gathering is listening for God. And, if someone there, God isn't their word, we know, I'm sure you know of a lot of people, and I know that I do, that have maybe been a bit abused by church and the word Jesus and God. And so that just doesn't resonate for them. So wherever they are, we believe God, which that's a huge long story. But if I look back in the Bible, God didn't even want to be named for the longest time. Like the first time that God actually said his name, he just said, I am who I am, right? He didn't want us putting these little words so that we could say, this is my God and it's not your God. I believe as I look in these scriptures and ancient texts that, God wanted to be bigger than our words, bigger than our culture. And I think it's really great to bring that Buddhist philosophy of contemplation, meditation, being an allowance of all things, yet seeing them for your good. And if we look in scripture, it says all things work for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purposes. So it's just bringing a new fresh light into something. And it's not new, they're both old, but like bringing the two together is, I think, so beautiful. And I think it's words that as Christians we don't need to be afraid of. And it's not a religion, it's a philosophy of contemplation. And that's one thing that, if we look at Buddhist monks or Catholic monks, they're both contemplating. They're both centering and listening for, we call it God, you may say universe, right? To speak truth into our souls. So I'd love to hear more about all of your experience and just being so attuned to life, life abundantly, as Christ might call it, being attuned to life, how that has really opened you to seeing the universe as working in your favor, as being able to inspire others to show them like this is a beautiful creation that we get to live in. And here's how we can live in it with, I would call it like the scales off of our eyes to where we can live heaven on earth, right?
That sounds good. Buddhist meditation is centered on the inner peace, on the mental development, and that's just absolutely beautiful if you're going through a period of personal development, because that's what it's all about. It calms the mind, and I think a lot of the sticking point for most Christian is to be speaking the mantras,
Mm-hmm.
chanting of Buddhist mantras that you don't really understand. Am I repeating a word or sound that's like praise for another god? I think that would be the biggest concern, right?
Yeah. And are they
Other
praise
than that,
gods?
some are, some aren't.
Mm-hmm.
So I think before you chant, you just have to, I mean, even
Yes.
Google. Come on, it's really easy. You can Google it and see if it's just, some words are just very simple, like lotus,
Mm-hmm.
peace,
Yeah.
calm. I like things like that. It's okay for anyone to chant, and that's
Mm-hmm.
fine.
Yeah.
And if it's the name of a god, a different god, if you only believe in one god, then
Mm-hmm.
don't have to chant that.
Right.
There's no right or wrong for me. It's about it's your life, really. I've personally seen people who are so miserable about going to church every week because they're going for the wrong reasons.
Yes, right. And I think that that's a huge thing to point out, is that the Catholic monks say the same thing about reading the Bible. If you're not reading the Bible in the Holy Spirit, then you might as well throw it away and do something better with your time. If you're not going to church in the true seeking of oneness with God, oneness with self, oneness with others, well, you might as well sleep in or do something better with your time, because you're there to meet with holiness. You're there to meet with creator of all. And if that's not the intention, well, go do something else.
Yes, intention is the key word. I
Mhm.
absolutely believe intention is the key word, because no matter what religion, you know, the intentions should be the same, right? Love is patient, love is kind. We're
Amen.
not envying.
Mhm.
If you're going to church and you're envying other people's bigger donations, that's not the right thing, right?
Right.
Not good for you.
Yeah.
Um, and if you're Christian, you talk about not self-seeking. If you're Buddhist, there's a big concept about there's really no self. So it's really about the inner peace.
And
It's
really,
really
I
about
love that.
grounding
Mhm.
yourself with the methodology that works well for you. And especially, I think, in this pandemic, as we're recording this, we're in a pandemic, probably the experience of our lifetime, right? There
Yes.
are so many, everyone's anxious, everyone has
Mhm.
anxiety to a certain level, but what methodology is going to work for you? right? For me, it looked like breath works. I was introduced by one of my clients. She is a breath work coach, and she introduced the powerful modality of breath work, and I was like blown away. And
Absolutely.
it helped me live through a pandemic. And when people ask me, how are you doing, Lucy? I'm like, hey, I'm thriving, right? Because you have to find what works for you, and it's different for everyone.
Yeah. And it's so amazing. We talk about the differences, and I think it's important to learn from the actual differences. Like I love that we have diversity of everything, and I want to get into diversity a little bit more, but thinking of some of the similarities, you talked about there is no self. And that's something if Buddhism is a philosophy, right? Would take away the chance and things like that. And then Jesus was the biggest Buddhist ever because he was the one who said, die to yourself. There is no self, right? That we are one with God, and that there isn't, if you die to yourself, this is how you truly connect with the creator of all, that it's not looking out for number one and doing everything, for me. And then you talked about breath work. And that's one of the things I speak about with the monks at the Catholic monasteries is that, if we believe in the Christian stories of, God breathed his life into this clay figure, then every one of us, just like in yoga, we say the divinity in me honors the divinity in you. If we believe that, we believe every human has Holy Spirit breath poured into these clay figures, and that you are divine and I am divine because we have God's breath in us. And the more we can tune into the breath, as the monks put it, we are inspired, that inspiration of breath. And that's what inspires to live thriving, to enjoy life abundantly, to live heaven on earth. And to me, I think when Jesus talked about the narrow road to heaven, I personally believe he meant on earth, like not necessarily who will go where when they die, but how many of us actually live that love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. If you live in such a way and surround yourself with others that live like that, I mean, we're walking beings of light and joy, and I think of Moses coming down the mountain with his face aglow because he's been shining in the light of God, or whatever we want to call God. And again, God just barely had a name. He was I am at that point. And you think about it, if you say I am, you're saying it in the personal. If you're saying God's name and you're saying I am, the I am is in me too. And so I just love pulling that philosophy in and being loving of each other's paths to God. And I always say, if we seek to affirm our own beliefs, we'll find it. And if we seek truth, Jesus says those who seek will find truth. So we'll find it if we're looking for truth.
Oh, that was beautiful. And I love it. This is video, so you can see me nodding my head.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, but I do have to point out some people do see Buddhism as a religion,
Okay.
and I actually disagree with that.
I've heard a
Some
lot of
people
people
are just,
with that.
yes, a lot of people see, Buddha as God, and they just worship and dump all their negative thoughts, right,
Mm.
in their meditation.
Uh-huh.
And that's not how I see it. It
Yeah.
should be your lifestyle. It should be a way that you live your life, a philosophy, instead of just this superstition of I will just pray to you and you will give me everything I need,
Right.
right?
I rub your belly and I
Yeah, exactly. People are like, hey, the happy Buddha.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, rub the belly and all the money's gonna come. No, no, it doesn't work like that, right?
Right.
You got to live the life accordingly. You have to design your own life. I mean, just because of something you do, that's superstition.
Right.
You've got to work for it. If you want $1 million, you've
Yeah.
got to work for it. You got to start with $10. You've got to start with your first business, and that might even fail,
Yeah.
right? But you've
Oh,
got
yeah.
to start somewhere and take baby steps forward, or else you're not going to get anywhere.
Absolutely. And it's that lifestyle that you were talking about. I think it was either Zig Ziglar or Jim Rohn, maybe both of them, who talked about if you serve enough people, the money will come. So you live the lifestyle of service, you live the lifestyle of being an inspiration to others, and the money will come. What avenue and what that looks like, you've got to be an allowance and let that go. But, I think that it's a beautiful philosophy. And I love that you point out the difference between, superstition and do this action and it will come to you. Because I think we do the same in our prayers as Christians too. Sometimes we think, oh, well, I asked for that Ferrari, so it's on its way. I don't need to do anything for it. Like if Ferrari's your dream, like go out, you can work for it, do your thing. But, some people would call that the prosperity gospel. And I think there's sometimes a chasm. We have that prosperity gospel that just, ask God and it will appear on your doorstep tomorrow. But then we also can sometimes have like, I call it almost a depravity gospel, where we think, oh, we can't have good things. We need to be impoverished. And, we've seen that lifestyle, especially in Christianity, where you say, oh, I have to be poor and I have to be these things to be holy, where I think there's a balance somewhere in there that, we can thrive in every way, emotionally, financially, physically. We can really thrive. We can live in this temple of a body we've been given. We can make the most and be good stewards of all the money that we get and bless others with that. And so I think, I don't know, what does Buddhism say about like extremism? Does it have a philosophy on that?
I'm not going to talk about that because I'm not the expert. I'm sure
Uh-huh.
there's a school somewhere.
Yeah.
And even within the Buddhists, there's different schools
Yeah.
which have different philosophies. So I think I don't fit to talk about that.
That's
But I
fun.
do feel, for coaching, you mentioned
Yeah.
earlier, God said, I am. From a
Mhm.
coaching point of view, I am is
Yes.
the most powerful words that you can say to yourself or others.
Mm-hmm.
What goes after the I am pretty much becomes reality,
Yes.
right? If you say, I am Jesus and Jesus is him, holiness, right? If
Mhm.
you say, I am incredible, I am amazing, I am remarkable. See, that just lights up your day.
Absolutely.
And it's about kindness. And you say the same thing to others.
Yeah.
You are absolutely amazing. If you're watching this, you are, right? Reina, you are remarkable.
And
And
Lucy, you are fantastic and beautiful and full of light and energy. I just am so enjoying every time we get together.
yes, so it's really important. And that's what I teach in my I Am Remarkable workshop that I
Yeah.
facilitate.
Mm-hmm.
We make lists and lists of what you're remarkable at
Oh,
because what you focus on grows. If
yes.
you're focused on the negatives, you're going to be showered with more negatives. And if you focus on the positives, you're going to see abundance and opportunity left and right. And you're going to start shattering your own self imposed glass ceilings. And we all
Mm,
have them in some
yeah.
way. Coming back to my name, right? My name is Lucy Liu. Hello. There's already such an amazing woman out there called Lucy Liu. And I started having this thought of I will just never be anyone. I would just be nobody. I am just one of the Lucy Lius out there among a million others, right? Because you obviously don't see Julia Robert out there again. So you cannot beat them. But when you live in this comparison
Mm,
stage, you'll never be truly happy. So it took me a long time to actually really overcome that fear of having my name. Like I used to feel really shy about booking restaurant reservations because I live in LA. I'm like,
yeah.
oh, and they'll be like, are you the Lucy Liu? I'm like, no, sorry to disappoint you, right? I
Oh,
felt like I was
yeah.
always disappointing people.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm so close to Hollywood,
Yeah.
at one point in middle school, I actually took casting classes and I went to numerous casting calls from commercials and every time I get there, like the casting director would run out of their office to the lobby, like, oh, is it the Lucy Liu? Is it the Lucy Liu? And they come out and they see me and they're like, oh, not the Lucy Liu. So that's
Oh.
what I grew up with. And that was one of my biggest limiting beliefs. But
Mhm.
you know what? Um, and another limiting belief I had was that even though I hold a diploma from UCLA, pretty well-known university, because I'm an immigrant, because I wasn't born in America, I always felt my English still isn't good enough. And
Wow.
that thought, I mean, it still comes up here and there, but I had to, if I talk the talk, that's what I do. I'm a coach. I help other women shatter their own limiting beliefs so
Yeah.
that they can become the next version of themselves. I have to do the same for myself.
Yeah.
So that's why I decided to walk the walk as well and step up in the more confident version of me and shatter all those limiting beliefs. And that's why I launched my podcast and just calling it the Lucy Liu Show.
Wow.
So, yeah, I am unique and I'm somebody. And
That's
even if
right.
I only help the life of one listener, I have done my contribution to a better world, and that's nourishing my soul.
Yes, absolutely. I just love that. It's funny too, because when you said that you think about your English, I'm like, when you said that you moved here, in what grade did you move here in?
Fifth grade.
Fifth grade. I couldn't believe it because I figured you were second generation already. So obviously you've not only shattered the limiting belief, but you've also, when we say that, right? When we say I am really great at English, I am super articulate, it starts becoming true, right? You begin to notice, oh, okay, maybe I said that wrong today. I'm going to say it right next time or the time after that. And you begin to not just think you're improved, but actually improve. And that's what you're doing with these women, is you're helping them shatter the limiting belief that keeps them. I think of some women that I know from other countries, and they still speak their English not very well, um, but they have that limiting belief that they will always do so. And until they've shattered the belief, they're not going to fix the grammar either.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm so passionate about my work, because I feel like you need to do what energizes you for a living,
Mm,
right? We need to feel alive. It doesn't matter what you do, but you need to feel alive doing it because you only have this life and this world needs you. This world needs more alive people.
yeah, absolutely. Um, so when someone comes to you, how does someone usually find you?
I've been featured in many podcasts. Some of my clients will find me through different podcasts, or I do have a website on lucyliucoaching.com. And usually I see a very common theme. It would be feeling stuck.
Mm,
So I think that's the most important about coaching, is because you can be stuck on something
mm,
for days, months, and when you have a perspective that's different from yours, a life different from yours, because I don't know you. I'm
mhm.
not here to make you like me. So I always ask permission first to be blunt. Right? I always say, may I have your permission to be blunt? Because,
Yeah,
I might say some things that you don't like. And that's how we grow,
that is how we grow.
because you're getting a partner, right? Um, that's not affiliated with your normal life.
Mhm.
So your decisions will not affect my life. And that makes a difference, because if you're asking the opinion of a friend, they would have to think about it, right? Is your
Yeah.
decision going to affect your friendship?
Uh-huh.
Do you
Right,
have the
right.
same visions and goals?
Can I tell you the real truth? Because I want to just be nice.
Right? Because, and when you have different visions and goals, your decisions will be different. Your opinions will be different.
Yeah.
And so that's why a lot of people, like, for example, when they want to start a business, they go ask their family or
Oh.
friends. Well, if they've never started a business, they can't give you the right advice.
Or maybe they started one business and it went really bad and they say, don't start a business. That's the worst thing you could do because I had one bad experience and I'm going to scare you off. The one thing I love about what I've gathered from speaking with you, Lucy Liu, is that you look into what the person wants. When I started out college, I started out in interior design and architecture, and some designers go in and they just, design whatever they like for the house. But there's really good ones that figure out what the owners like and what their personality is and the things that really make them smile. And I feel like that's what you do with coaching. You don't just go in and say, hey, this is my worldview and you should have it too. You say, what's your worldview? What are your beliefs? What do you want? And you really figure out what it is this person in front of you is looking to accomplish and they want to become. And then you get in and you say, okay, now what's keeping you from that? And the stories that maybe they don't even realize they're telling themselves, you're helping them to pull that out, right?
Absolutely. It's a judgment-free zone. I think that's
Mm.
what's important because I don't know my clients.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm judge-free,
Yeah.
right? I don't make any judgment. All I care about is their goals and their visions. And sometimes that even change. As I
Right.
work with the client from year to year, sometimes they pivot. They
Yeah.
decide, I've been wanting this for all my life, and they actually do it. And once you get into it, they decide that it's not for them, and that's okay. And
Yeah.
it's okay to pivot. And especially in today's world, it's totally fine to pivot. And so many have thrived because they pivoted. So
Absolutely.
it's all about alignment with how you feel. And I'm not a business coach that goes like, I'm going to help you make seven figures. No, I'm all about, you know, reaching that next better version of yourself while having fun along the way.
Absolutely. I want to touch back on you were talking about belief earlier, and just bringing kind of that biblical perspective back in because that's what I like to do. I think about, you know, whether people out there are Jesus followers or not. A lot of, we can read all kinds of wisdom texts and realize like there's wisdom here. There's a reason this has stuck around for centuries, right? And I look at Jesus's words every time he does a miracle for someone. He said, as you believed, so it is. As you believed, so it is. And there was a man with a demon possessed son, and he says, Jesus, can you heal my son? And Jesus says, if you believe. And he goes, help me with my unbelief. And I think sometimes that's our prayer. And I think that's something that you really touch into with your clients is sometimes we don't come with that belief. We don't have the belief to be healed. We don't have the belief to have that business. We don't have the belief. And so we ask, help me with my unbelief. And that transformation that we see Jesus do in the Bible instantly, it might take a few months, it might take whatever it takes. But when you help with that unbelief, miracles come forth.
Mm, that was beautiful. I resonate with 100% what you just said. And I absolutely believe there's wisdom inside each of us, each
Mm-hmm.
of you. Your well of wisdom is already there. And with each reading of, whether it's the scripture or any book out
Mm-hmm.
there, you delve into personal development or
Yeah.
even fiction. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter.
Yeah.
As we live life,
Yeah.
you're going to see different wisdom
Mm-hmm.
pop up.
I
You're
think about
going to
wisdom in
have
Disney.
those aha moments
Yeah.
everywhere.
I think about, the wisdom in Disney movies sometimes, speaking of like diversity, it's been so great to see Disney in the last, 5-10 years really starting to have a princess that's, a different color from a different place. We talked about that in biblical art. Like, I want to see Chinese and Black angels, I want to see Mexican angels and all these kind of things, and I, I see the wisdom in you're right. You can find wisdom anywhere. We can like I said, I find I love Disney movies. So I find wisdom in Disney movies. I think of Princess and the Frog and how well that was done. And I think about there was one and it's blanking on me now, but it was teaching all about inclusion and things like that. But it was outside of the context of anything like reality based. I want to say, I can't think of it right now, but it was, the flowers or something, that kids could understand. But if you really take it one step further, it's like, well, why are we judging, this flower against that flower? Why are we judging, the trees don't say, I'm better than you because I'm a maple, and I'm better than you because I'm a pine, and just to bring this joy and beauty of life into all things, and that wisdom that permeates just the beauty of creation and however we see that creation. And that's all going to be different. And sharing that, though, I think is really
Yes, you mentioned flowers, right? Like the
important.
flowers don't care if the next flower blooms, they just bloom. So
Yeah.
you just bloom. And
Like that.
and that wisdom comes when you have an open mind. When
Mm,
you see life through the lenses of opportunity instead of obstacles. That's what's important.
yeah, absolutely. And so when someone comes to you and sees, we've all heard it, we've all been there before, when they're kind of like, oh, well, stupid me, why did I do that? Or, I don't have this and I'm not qualified enough for that. I know that even my learning groups that I've been in for this alt MBA, I had a really limiting belief about I just wanted to sell books. I'm like, I have a book, this is what I want to sell, just the books. And I said, I don't want to do courses or lead funnels or anything like that, because I have this limiting belief. I've seen people use lead funnels and courses and all that just to grab an extra buck, another buck, like I'll sell you on $5 and $500 and $5,000. And I said, I don't want to do that. That's just so gross to me. And the group, you have to sometimes have someone outside yourself, said to me, but you're not that kind of person. So what about when someone finishes your book and they say, well, what more? I want more. Where can I get more? If you've created a course for them, they can get more. And, I never saw it from a value creation. I'd always seen people just, money, money, money out of it. And so they helped me get my limiting belief off of, this is a snaky thing to do, I'm not going to be like that, to I can take this and do it in a beautiful way that creates value for others, instead of what I've seen and has created my limited worldview. But I had to have someone else who didn't really know me in this course, who didn't know my background, who had a completely different background, to help me see the blind spots, because I can't see behind me.
Absolutely. And every guru out there is right. They just might not be right for you,
Yeah.
because we need to take aligned actions. And when those actions are in alignment with your values and with your priorities,
Mm-hmm.
that's when your soul is, right,
Yes,
abundant.
absolutely.
But you have to know what's important to you, right? I
Mhm.
always suggest my client to make a value list. What do you value?
Yeah, I love that. I hope everyone's kind of contemplating that right now. What are the things that you value?
Hmm.
What do you value most?
Hmm.
And then when they've made that value list, what are some of the things that come up? Are they shocked sometimes by, wow, I thought this was higher, but actually, do you take it sometimes, like when I always tell
Actually,
someone,
I get a lot of wow, like I've never done this in my whole life. I've actually never attended my own priorities. And
mm,
that's what's going to give you boundary problems.
yes,
And
yes,
it makes life so much more simple when you know your values and priorities. Like you have this value list and you have this priority list, you make super easy decisions. All you have to go is, does it align with my values? No. Okay, no.
yeah. I've seen that a lot of times, and I'm sure you see it with your clients. I'm thinking of someone who, they said their values was health and family.
Mhm.
However, all they did was work. and it took away
Mhm.
from their health, and it took away from their family. And, it was health and family, health and family. But the money and the work and the accolades that came from that were truly the value, even though they didn't want that to be their value. And so I think having that awareness, like you're talking about, to here are my values. Now, what does that also mean for my actions? Because if my values are health and family, sometimes I'm going to need to put work aside to go work on my health and go see my family and do more in what I say my values are. And like you said, that will make the decision easier because
Yes, absolutely. Because then you're living your life by design. What
mm,
times are you designing for your family time, right? What
yeah.
time do you go to sleep? When are
Mm,
you reading that book? When are you meditating? Right? When are you praying?
yeah.
It's your life. So that's why you live accordingly. You're not living someone else's life.
So, and I'm just going to play devil's advocate here because I've seen it a lot. What do you do when you get the person who comes in, right? And they say, well, I just don't have enough time. I want to do that. I want to meditate. I want to pray. And I spend time with my family. But, I have to work, and I have to work to provide for that family. And I got to, I have all this stuff and commitments. And what am I going to do? Just never sleep? When someone comes to you, and, we all get that way sometimes,
We're all busy, right? We're
there's a lot
busy
going
when we're
on.
18, we're busy when we're 50, when
Yeah.
we're busy when you're single. You're going to be busier when you have 2 kids. You're going to be busier when you have 5 kids.
Oh, geez.
Everyone's busy, right? Life is hard, but you choose your hard. It's hard to be married. It's hard to be single. It's
Oh,
hard to be anything if you choose to live that way,
ooh,
right?
I
I've had
agree.
clients who have 5 kids, right?
Yeah,
Work corporate, and they're going through their MBA and they're crushing their family life.
yeah.
So it's possible. There are people out there with 10 kids, right? So I tell my single clients, I'm like, okay, no, no, back up. People with 10 kids are doing this. You can do it, right?
Yeah.
No excuses, because we give ourselves so much excuses.
Mm,
And procrastination is a form of stress relief. You're
yes, yes.
stressed from something. If you're not doing what you're supposed to do, you're stressed out. We have to actually go back and figure out what's triggering those stress.
Mm,
And that's when you prioritize what brings you joy. You have to put all the things that brings you joy on your list first, right? So many of us are like, to-do list, to-do list. I am advocating ditching the to-do list. Okay. It's
wow.
either on your calendar if it's important. Reina, you're important. You're on my Google Calendar today. I'm
Yes.
speaking with you. You're
Uh-huh.
important. That's a priority, right? But I set those in my working hours, right?
Yes.
So that aligns with my values to be there with my family. And if it's not on my calendar, it's probably just family time and joyful things that I do. So you've got to schedule them in, and you don't really need a to-do list. Or, some ladies, they can't live without a to-do list.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, we rename them. Let's make it a different name. The done list, the ta-da list, right? When you celebrate them, tick them off, and then you're like, woohoo, right? You need a different energy towards that instead
Yeah.
of just always living from behind. You're always behind. Your
We still
to-do
have
list
to
is
do
never
this. I have
done,
to do that.
right? So
Mhm.
it's a complete different attitude towards life, and your attitude becomes your mindset, and your mindset becomes your lifestyle. Those little habits of yours, they accumulate over time and become your life.
Absolutely. It's funny you say that, even just renaming the list. That was something in our course. Seth Godin always talks about shipping things, like don't just think about it. If you're going to do it, ship it. Whether it's good or bad, get it out there. And so someone said, I'm going to turn my to-do list into a to ship list, a ship it list. And so, it's not that I'm going to do this or think about it. I'm going to ship it off into the universe and then get back to what I'm prioritizing now. So I love that you work with that with your clients. And so, you said you choose your hard, right? So coming from that optimistic place of, what, this is hard, that's hard, but we're going to approach this in a way that is joyful as well. Tell me more about how to make the hard things also joyful.
Well, you got to reframe it. I say it like, oh, it's hard. That's hard. But
Yeah.
to me, it's exciting.
Mm,
It's fun.
yeah.
You have to make that transition from being fearful to being excited, right? Hard to, it's just if it's something new, you change that to, oh, this is new,
Yeah.
right? Or this is a challenge. But your attitude going at it makes a world of difference, because that's when you have your eyes open to opportunities. And I always say this, um, life is hard. We get thrown at with rocks. We
Mm,
all do, you
yeah.
know. As long as you're living, you're breathing, there's no way around it. Life's going to throw you curveballs. Okay. But these rocks being thrown at you, do you see them as little pebbles paving your way, or do you
Mhm.
see them as boulders? The choice is yours.
Yeah. Yeah, you can build with them and pave the
Mhm.
way, or you
Mhm.
can build a wall between you and your dreams.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's your choice what to build. We all get the rocks, and sometimes they'll hit us, but you can choose what to do with them.
Yes, yes.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Um, Tell me more about your podcast, the things that you talk about. Where can people listen to that? Where and what are they going to hear when they listen in?
So my podcast, The Lucy Liu Show, it's a weekly short, fairly short, about 20 minutes or less, fueling station for your mind, business, and life. So we're talking about mindsets, inspirational stories, and also some business techniques if you're aspiring or growing entrepreneur. And it's everywhere podcasts are available.
Nice. And it's just the Lucy Liu Show. It's not hard to find.
Yes, come say hello.
Yeah, absolutely. Give it a 5-star rating and check it out. Make sure to subscribe. So tell me, you do so much. You've got your clients, you're a speaker, you've got podcasts, and you are great at keeping that all in your working time, and you've scheduled it to where you can still be joyful and enjoy your family. What's your favorite part?
My favorite part is absolutely client results.
Mm,
Uh, it's my clients are not about the monetary results, although usually when you work on your inner self, there's, I always say money should come as a byproduct,
mm-hmm.
but it's really the feeling inside, that inner work. It
Yeah.
shines from within, your confidence and your level of fulfillment in life, because our mental health is so important. Our wellness is so important in 2020,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, it's always been important, but because of what's going on in the world this year, it's extra important, and people actually see that. Oh, if I, some people start having the thought, if I didn't make it through the pandemic, would I have been regretful of my life? Right?
Mm,
Of all the things that I didn't do for myself or for my family, or, those dreams that, you know, to those creative sides of you. Like I've
yeah.
had a client who came to me, and she's wonderful. She works for a nonprofit and she still loves her job. You don't have to quit your job, right?
Right.
You don't have to quit your job, but it's just those, little side hustles or creative side of you that's like bubbling up inside that you've actually never explored in your life. That could be so exciting.
I love that. I love that you talk about money being a byproduct of life satisfaction. That's something I used to say way back in the day when I used to be a fitness trainer, you know, uh, looking great is a byproduct of getting healthy, right?
Mm.
You get healthy and you feel good, and then you end up looking great too in the meantime. And I talk about, when I talk about soul nutrition, the same is true with our souls, that as we become more contemplative, become more present, more aware, then a, a type of faith that people are attracted to and want to ask questions about emerges, right? We don't have to push our faith on people because people say, how are you peaceful in the midst of this trial? Wow, that person insulted you and you didn't even, it didn't bother you. You didn't retaliate and you just let it fly off your back. I heard one person say, when we talk about money, it was like a very upright man and someone insulted him or slammed the door in his face or something. And another person says, are you going to let them do that to you? He says, I can afford it. He could emotionally afford it. He didn't need people to necessarily compliment him or open the door for him. He was like, I'm rich enough on the inside that someone can slam the door in my face or insult me and I can afford it. And I love that from our spirit, right? That we can afford it. But then also, as we are rich inside, we become rich outside, whatever that looks like. And that looks very different for every person.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that is so true because I don't really have a whole morning routine. I just slap on a moisturizer and that's it. But when I am myself, the normal self, I feel like it shines through. All the confidence, everything inside of me, that richness you talked about, I feel it,
Yes.
right? You really feel it when your life transforms. You're like, wow, why didn't I do this earlier? It's everything just shines from within, and that inner beauty, it's so amazing.
Absolutely. And I can feel it even through a screen, and I know the audience can too. When when someone comes to you in that light that we all are born with, right? We all have that as a child. When that light has really been dimmed out and they're, stuck and dim and not feeling what you're talking about. What is the process and what kind of, I mean, I'm sure it's different for everyone,
Mhm.
but do you see those results like instantly in a week? Like sometimes it's months. Is it always different? Or is there some sort of like you see a real similarity in the people who tend to come to you?
It really depends.
Mhm.
First of all, I only work with clients who are ready to move forward, who are motivated to move forward. Okay. If you have trauma, if you have abuse, right? Something that's really deeply rooted that you're thinking back in time, when I was a child, something happened to me, it's hindering me. If it's trauma to a deeper level, you need to see a therapist
Yeah.
first because life coaching only works. We only work on the now and the future.
Yeah.
So it's about now. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, limiting beliefs will come up. Maybe minor anxiety will come up because we're human. Those are
Yeah.
all normal.
Uh-huh.
So, but you're ready to move forward. That's when you're ready to work with the life coach because we're just going to go. And sometimes that transformation can happen as soon as one call. Sometimes it takes a couple months because it takes time to realize your dream, where you to go from point A to point B. But it depends on the situation. Sometimes it happens so fast. You'll be like, wow.
Yeah, and sometimes it takes time to realize
Mhm,
the limiting beliefs too.
mhm,
Sometimes you know your dream, but you can't figure out what's holding you from it.
mhm.
So, and then you have to be honest enough with your life coach to be able to get into those dark places that you've been hiding the limiting belief, and that will move you along much faster to your goals and dreams, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I know we've said it a couple times throughout the interview, but I just want to make sure people have it right here at the end. Tell us where we can find you, all the different platforms. If they're interested in, wow, this life coaching seems amazing. And I love your perspective and your light. And I just want to shine like that. Tell us where we can get a hold of you.
So my website is at lucyliucoaching.com. That's Lucyliu coaching.com. I'm very active on Instagram. My handle is MSLucyliu, Miss Lucy Liu. And I actually have the same handle across all social media platforms. So whether you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, find me at the same place. And I would love to talk to you.
Amazing. Well, make sure you check out Lucy Liu on all her platforms. Make sure to follow her and to check out that podcast. And until I see you again, may the Lord bless and keep you, cause his face to shine upon you, and nourish your soul.